Anthonette Christine Cayedito's life is one of grief, mystery, and resilience. Anthonette, a 9-year-old brilliant, conscientious, and caring child born on December 25, 1976 in Gallup, New Mexico, vanished from sight. She shared a little house with her mother, Penny Cayedito, and her 2 younger sisters. Anthonette, who was known for her maturity above her years, loved and devotedly assisted to care for her siblings. April 5th, 1986 was the last day before Anthonette vanished. Penny had been out at a neighborhood tavern with pals that evening. A babysitter was looking after Anthonette and her sisters. Shortly after midnight, Penny sent the babysitter home, returned home, and went to bed. Penny got up about 7 in the morning to get the kids ready for Bible school. She soon became aware that Anthonette was absent. Frantic, Penny looked about the house and nearby before phoning the police. The first look turned up no evidence of forced entry, implying Anthonette might have opened the door voluntarily. Later, witness testimony revealed troubling hints. Years later, one of Anthonette's younger sisters, Wendy, revealed she had seen her sister answer a knock at the door that evening. Outside, identified as Uncle Joe, a family friend. 2 men grabbed Anthonette when she opened the door and hauled her into a waiting van. Wendy remembered her sister screaming, "Let me go! Let me start!" 1 year after Anthonette vanished, the Gallup Police Department received a threatening call. Claiming to be Anthonette, a small child reported to the dispatcher from Albuquerque, New Mexico. The call was cut off suddenly when an errant man's voice yelled, "Who said you could use the phone?" Then the sound of a scuffle. Though officials couldn't track it in time, Penny eventually recognized the voice on the phone as her daughter's. Contradicting narratives and difficult investigative questions, the research ran over many difficulties as the years went by. Penny's narrative of the circumstances behind Anthonette's disappearance varied over time, casting doubt. A revelation Penny had not before revealed. She admitted in an FBI interview in 1994 that she had told Anthonette to answer the door the night she vanished. Complicating matters further, Penny acknowledged knowing who had adopted her kid and mentioned a man going by the name Emo. She conjectured about her participation, wondering, what if me and Emo did this? Would we both go to prison? Penny was never charged, notwithstanding these disclosures, and the probe came to standstill. Law enforcement authorities firmly felt Penny omitted important information, but most of the possible knowledge she carried was lost with her death in 1999. There have been reports that Anthonette had been seen multiple times over the years. A Carson City, Nevada waitress reported meeting a teenage girl fitting Anthonette's description in 1991. The girl looked to be trying to signal for aid and was with a messy couple. The waitress discovered a napkin under the girl's plate bearing "Help me" and called the police, scrawled on it when the party left. Sadly, the lead did not produce any innovations. Theories about Anthonette's fate include kidnapping and murder to human trafficking. While some say she fell prey to a more general, darker scheme, others think she may have been taken by someone known to the family. Anthonette Cayedito's disappearance split her family and permanently damaged the Gallup community. Until her death in 1999, Penny battled shame and bereavement. The younger sisters of Anthonette have talked about the anguish they had been through and how her absence affected their life. For Wendy, memories of Anthonette still flash clearly. She remembers her sister's compassion and caregiver's heart. After Anthonette vanished, Wendy has fought to reconstruct her life and break out from the cycle of dysfunction that followed the family. Though almost 4 decades have passed, Anthonette's case is still ongoing. The dream of finding her endures for her family, friends, and community. Her narrative is still relevant today since it reminds us of the suffering resulting from unresolved disappearances and the need of never giving up on the quest of solutions. The case of 4-year-old Nylene Kay Marshall, who went missing during a family trip in Montana's Helena National Forest in 1983, is one of the most disturbing missing person cases in U.S. history. After Nylene disappeared, strange and unsettling claims were made by someone who claimed to have taken her, making the already tragic case even more complicated. On June 25th of 1983, Nylene went with her family for a lunch at a campground close to Mount Penn Creek in the Elkhorn Mountains. It was a beautiful summer day, and the family trip should have been happy. Nylene was playing with other kids by a creek, but she fell behind the group. When the kids turned around, she was not there anymore. Her family quickly noticed something was off and started looking around the area. They tried hard, but there was no sign of Nylene. Authorities started a big search involving local police, citizens, and the FBI. They searched the forest, going through rough areas, empty mine tunnels, and the creek. Members of the local LDS church, with Nylene's family attended, were also involved. Even with all the efforts made, there was no sign of Nylene, and the search came to a stop. There was a strange hint from that day. A guy jogging in a suit was seen talking to Nylene by the creek before she went missing. However, the police couldn't identify him. It's still unknown to this day if he was even involved. The sighting, along with no physical proof, made the mystery even greater. 2 years later, after Nylene vanished, the story changed in a troubling way. In November of 1985, a person who did not give their name called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, saying they had taken Nylene. The next year, a letter typed on a typewriter was sent to the police in Wisconsin, supposedly from the same person. The writer shared information about Nylene's disappearances that no one knew before, making detectives think that the claim could be true. In the letter, the man said he had found Nylene crying and scared by the creek and chose to take her and care for her. He talked about how he took care of her, taught her at home, and went a lot with her throughout the US, Canada, and UK. The letters had a frightening tone. The writer said that he understood Nylene's family missed her, but he couldn't let her leave. Worse still, he suggested that she had been abused. One part said, "I picked up Kay on the road near Elkhorn Park between Helena and Boulder. She was scared and crying, and I held her as she trembled. I chose to keep her and love her. She has a healthy diet. Her favorite food is pizza and cherries." The man said Nylene was happy and trusted him, but his details suggested a very concerning situation. Over the years, many people reported seeing a girl who looked like Nylene. One witness said they saw a girl who looked at her at a restaurant in Janesville, Wisconsin. In another incident, a nurse in New Orleans reported encountering a 19-year-old woman calling herself Helena, who thought her mother's name might have been Nylene. The woman was at the hospital with the guy and getting treatment. Before any more questions could be asked, the two left suddenly. Even with strange letters and phone calls, detectives couldn't find out who the anonymous man was. The reported sightings were promising, but they did not result in any real progress. Theories about what happened to Nylene include her being kidnapped and held for a long time, as well as the chance that she was sold or killed soon after she went missing. One unsettling idea is that the letters and calls could be a complex trick, but knowing some hidden facts about the case makes this seem unlikely. Nylene's family was heartbroken by her absence. In 1995, her mother Nancy was killed in Mexico, which added to the family's sorrow. By then, the other family members had moved to Japan, probably looking for a new beginning away from their painful memories. Nylene's case has been unsolved for many years, with few clues and no proven sightings of her. Her family still hopes for answers, holding on to that thought that she might be alive. The loss of Nylene Marshall shows how quickly life can take a turn for the worse. Her situation shows the sadness of families who don't know what happened and the difficulty that detectives have in solving complicated missing persons cases. Almost 40 years later, the question of what happened to Nylene still bothers those who remember her story. The letters, the phone calls, and the alleged sightings all point to a chance that she could still be alive, but the lack of definitive answers leaves the case shrouded in darkness. The disappearances of 3-year-old Shaina Ashley Kirkpatrick and her 2-month-old sister Shausha Latine Henson are a sad and confusing situation, filled with lies, murder, and many unsolved questions. In 2001, 2 young sisters went missing while traveling with their mother Camilla Henson and 2 people whose bad acts caused harm in several states. Despite thorough searches, Shaina and Shausha's whereabouts are still unknown. On April 2nd of 2001, Camilla Henderson and her girls, Shaina and Shausha, left Portland, Oregon for a road trip with Camilla's childhood friends, Christina Noel Moyer and Mara's boyfriend, Frank Lee O'Haring. The couple said they were looking for a new place to live and convinced Camilla to go on a trip with them to British Columbia, Canada. O'Haring, a guy on the run for trying to kill his ex-wife, was very dangerous. Mara presented him to Camilla as her husband, calling him Curtis. O'Haring is said to have led a Satanist group in Stewartsville, Missouri, and Mara was supposedly a member. The trip started in Sacramento, California, where Mara and O'Haring had persuaded Camilla to get her birth certificate, which they said was needed to cross into Canada. The group was last seen together on April 5, 2001 at a hotel in Redding, California. Sadly, this would be the last time Camilla and her children were seen alive. On April 20th, 2001, 2 weeks into the road trip, an off-duty road officer found Meyer and O'Haring at a rest area in Collier County, Florida. Meyer's cleared with a .22 caliber gun, and it looked like it was a murder she-ride. O'Haring shot himself in the head and was living when found, but he died from his injuries later that day. At the crime scene, investigators found a disturbing clue: Camilla's ripped birth certificate in a trash can nearby. Investigators found that Meyer and Hurry used Camilla's credit cards to buy food and gas in multiple states from April 6th to April 9th. Meyer also tricked his way into getting a Nevada ID card using Camilla's name. The group's car, a Kia Sophia, was found left behind at the rest area. Inside the cab found a diaper bag, but there was no sign of Shaina or Shausha. Finding these things made the mystery bigger and increased worries about the children's safety. On April 28, 2001, just 8 days after the murder of Shausha, Camilla's Henson's body was found partly buried near Pyramid Lake in Nevada, about 37 miles north of Wadsworth. She had been severely bludgeoned with a hatchet and shot to death. Ballistics research showed that the gun used to kill her was the same one that killed Meyer and Ohring. Finding Camilla's body was a huge shock. It confirmed that Meyer and Ohring were involved in her murder and raised serious concerns about what happened to her children. Despite searching a lot in nearby places, no sign of Shaina or Shausha was found. The disappearances of Shaina and Shausha are still a secret. Investigators think that Meyer and Ohring were responsible for Camilla's death and probably affected what happened to the children. Without physical proof, what happened to them is still just a guess. Some theories suggest that the children were killed with their mother, while others worry that they might have been given to strangers for trafficking or other harmful reasons. Finding a diaper bag in the Kia Sophia indicates that the children were likely living for some of the trip. But after that, there are no further clues. Ohring, a runaway with a violent background and suspected links to a satanist group, makes the case more frightening. The couple seems to be trying to trick and take advantage of Camilla, but we don't know why they are doing it. Shaina and Shausha's family is really hurting because they have no end. The violent killing of Camilla and unanswered questions about her children have caused deep pain. Police have looked into the case several times over the years, but they haven't found any new important information. As of 2025, no one knows where Shaina and Shausha are. The disappearance of Shaina Kirkpatrick and Shausha Henson are among the most unsettling unsolved cases from the early 2000s. The terrible actions of Meyer and Ohring create a lasting impact of violence and deception. Those who knew and cared for Shaina and Shausha still hold on to hopes for answers, even though things are very uncertain. My prayers go out to them, always. Like every case, I want you guys to go deeper into the research if you want to support these things. I try to find cases that are not as well documented or talked about. It's hard to find many of these sources, so as you continue this video, keep these things in mind. I try to find things that are not talked about as often because I believe it's important to be talked about. If you know any stories that are not talked about enough, let me know in the comments below and I'll try to cover it. Also, before we go any further, subscribe. I've been trying to get 100,000 subscribers for the last 2 years now. I'd really like to get it by the end of 2025. Commenting will really help with that because you'll put me in the algorithm. So if you could, comment below. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the video. The case of 14-year-old Jeremy Donald Bright, who went missing in August of 1986 while at the Coos County Fair in Myrtle Point, Oregon, is still one of the most puzzling and sad cases in the area's history. Before I go any further, I just want to make it clear, I am from Oregon, so these cases were specifically chosen because of my location. I found that these two Portland cases are one of the most intriguing, least documented things I've seen in a long time, so just wanted to keep that out there. Fun fact. What began as a fun summer trip with family turned into a decades-long search for answers, leaving a trail of grief and speculation that continues to this day. Jeremy Bright lived in Grants Pass, Oregon with his mother Diane Beatty and his sister Stati. In the summer of 1986, Diane sent Jeremy and Stati to Myrtle Point to see their dad and other family members. The trip was planned as a fun break for the kids while Diane worked and went to school. The time matched. The Coos County Fair, a yearly event loved by the locals, and a tradition for Jeremy and Stati. On August 14th in 1996, the kids went to the fair together. At some point during the day, Jeremy and Stati got split. Stati first thought her brother had gone out with friends since Jeremy was a friendly youngster who knew a lot of people in their small town. When he didn't come home that evening, she became more worried. When Stati first told the police that Jeremy was lost, they didn't believe her right away. The cops thought he had run away, which is a typical assumption in missing teenagers cases. When Jeremy did not come back the next day, his family became sure that something was wrong. By the time the cops started to take the case seriously, important time had already been wasted. This delay became a key reason why the investigation couldn't find out what happened. As the probe continued, a scary clue was found. Witnesses said they saw Jeremy in a car with a guy named Terry Lee Steinhoff, who lives in Midero Point and has a history of violence. Steinhoff was later found guilty of a different murder in Coos County and was sentenced to life in jail. Steinhoff wouldn't help the police when they tried to ask him about Jeremy's disappearance, even after several tries. Investigators looked around his home and places he often went, but they did not find any proof connecting him to Jeremy's case. In 2007, Steinhoff died in jail, taking any information about Jeremy's faith with him. The Midero Point community came together to help look for Jeremy. Volunteers searched for the fairgrounds, nearby trees, and rivers. Flyers were handed out, and news coverage attracted national interest in the case. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released age-progressed photos over the years trying to generate new leads, which you see here. In 2016, police searched a pond near Midero Point after receiving a tip that Jeremy's body might have been thrown there. But the search found nothing. Even though there were some moments of public interest, the case stayed painfully unsolved. Over the years, many ideas about Jeremy's absence have come up. Abduction and homicide. The main belief is that Jeremy was taken and killed. Because of Steinhoff's bad past and reports of seeing Jeremy in his car, many people think he might be involved. Some people think Jeremy might have died by an accident, and that someone might have hinted it to escape legal trouble. The busy fairs are crowded with strangers, and Jeremy might have come across someone who meant harm while he was walking by himself. These theories are based on guesses because there's no physical proof, which makes it hard for investigators to make progress. Jeremy's absence broke his family's life apart. His mother, Diane, expressed her lasting sadness and sorrow, wishing she'd never sent Jeremy to Midero Point. Not knowing what happened to him has deeply affected those who cared about him. In 2011, 25 years after he went missing, family and friends came together in Midero Point to release 1,000 balloons in his honor. The event honored Jeremy's life and highlighted the unanswered questions about his case. The disappearance of Jeremy Bright remains one of the biggest riddles in Oregon, right next to Kyron Horman. His situation shows how fast life can change and highlights the importance of acting quickly in missing person cases. Even after nearly 40 years, his family still hopes to find answers. Here we have some age progression images of Jeremy, which depicts how he might look today, helping to keep his memory alive and his story known to be public. His story shows how important it is to keep trying and be aware when fighting for justice for those who are lost but remembered. Jeremy Bright's case, like many others, need to be resolved. It shows how strong families are in their search for loved ones and how towns supported them. If you know anything about Jeremy Bright or other missing people, please reach out to your local police or groups that can help find missing persons. Keep hope alive. Together. The world of true crime is filled with heartbreaking stories of missing persons, especially when those individuals are children. Be aware, be helpful, and care for your communities. Be good people.